The first mistake Commander Threx of the Virelian Dominion made was believing the word Deathworlder meant undisciplined. The second mistake was making that assumption in public. The third was raising his hand. The Galactic Conclave chamber floated in the vacuum between stars, a ringed cathedral of transparent alloys and shifting banners. 1,000 species watched from levitating tiers. Bioluminescent delegates pulsed in cautious blues and violets. Crystalline entities refracted the chamber's light into nervous rainbows. The air itself was tuned to a neutral atmospheric blend, a compromise of gases calculated to offend no one. At the center platform stood the accused, human, Terran, Deathworlder. Ambassador Elias Ward of Earth stood with his hands clasped behind his back. No visible weapons, no armor, just a dark diplomatic uniform stitched with silver thread and a small patch bearing Earth's blue and white emblem. He looked almost relaxed. Across from him towered Commander Threx. Threx's species had evolved beneath the crushing gravity of Virelia Prime. He stood nearly 3 meters tall, plated in natural armor that shimmered like forged iron. His 4 eyes burned amber. His hands, each tipped with thick keratin blades, were folded behind his back as the charges were read. "Humanity," intoned the Arbiter, a being composed of luminous mist contained within a hovering ring, "is accused of violating Dominion territorial sanctity. 3 Virelian war frigates were disabled within Dominion-claimed space. Evidence suggests human involvement." A murmur rippled across the chamber. Ward's voice, when he spoke, was steady. "We disabled 3 vessels that were firing on a civilian convoy carrying medical supplies. They were within Dominion territory," Threx growled. "They were within reach of refugees," Ward replied. A sharper murmur. The Arbiter's light flickered. "The Conclave requests clarification. Did humanity knowingly enter disputed territory?" Ward nodded once. "Yes." Gasps, shock pulses, audible clicks of mandibles. "Then you admit guilt," Threx said, stepping forward. His massive shadow fell over Ward. Ward met his gaze. "We admit responsibility." Silence. "And," Ward added, "we will do it again." The chamber erupted. The Arbiter flared brightly. "Order!" Threx's breathing grew heavy. The Virelian commander had faced plasma barrages without flinching. He had crushed insurgencies. He had watched lesser species tremble at the mere sound of Dominion engines. But this human did not tremble. "You stand in the heart of the Conclave," Threx said, voice vibrating. "You speak defiance as if you are untouchable." Ward's expression didn't change. "No one is untouchable, Commander. That's rather the point." The Virelian's 4 eyes narrowed. "You are a Deathworlder," Threx said. "Your species clawed its way from a toxic, unstable rock. You mistake stubbornness for strength. And you mistake politeness for weakness." The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop. It happened quickly. Threx moved with shocking speed for his size. One massive hand shot forward. The crack echoed. Ward's head snapped sideways as the blow landed. He staggered half a step, but did not fall. The chamber froze. No one moved, no one breathed. Even the Arbiter's light dimmed in stunned disbelief. The slap was not merely physical, it was political, symbolic, an ancient gesture of dominance and humiliation. A commander of the Dominion had struck a representative of a sovereign species inside the Conclave. Ward slowly turned his head back. A faint red mark bloomed on his cheek. He tasted blood, swallowed it. His voice, when it came, was almost conversational. "Commander Threx, you have 5 seconds." A ripple of confusion spread. Threx laughed, a deep metallic rumble. 5 seconds for what? Ward lifted his wrist slightly, a subtle motion. Across the galaxy, something woke up. On the dark side of a gas giant in the Kepler expanse, a formation of human vessels drifted in silent orbit. They had been invisible, masked by gravitational distortions and cold-running systems. 5 seconds. On the outer rim of Dominion space, buoys that had been drifting for years lit up simultaneously, transmitting encrypted bursts. 4 seconds. On Luna, beneath Earth's ancient regolith, a command center shifted from standby to active. Tactical displays flared to life. 3 seconds. Deep inside Dominion territory, in places the Dominion believed secure, dormant devices unfolded like mechanical flowers. 2 seconds. In the conclave chamber, Ward met Threx's gaze. 1, he said. The galaxy blinked. Every Dominion warship, every frigate, every cruiser, every dreadnought lost power. Not destroyed, not damaged, disabled. Across hundreds of systems, Dominion vessels went dark simultaneously. Weapons offline, engines silent, shields gone. The Conclave's data streams flooded with emergency signals. What is happening? A crystalline delegate refracted in alarm. The Arbiter's light pulsed erratically. Dominion fleet telemetry has ceased. Threx stiffened. An aide burst onto the platform, breathless. Commander, our ships. I am aware, Threx snapped. You should not be, Ward said quietly. Not yet. Threx turned slowly.
Ward lowered his hand. We warned you, the human said, repeatedly. You fired on civilian transports. You annexed neutral corridors. You ignored sanctions. You ignored mediation. You dare, Threx began. You hit me, Ward said, on record, in this chamber. A projection flickered into existence above them, a live feed from the Dominion capital world. Virilia Prime. Its orbital defense grid, silent. Massive Dominion dreadnoughts hung motionless in orbit, inert. They were not destroyed. They were helpless. How? Whispered someone. Ward answered without looking away from Threx. You call us deathworlders like it's an insult. You forget what that means. He gestured slightly. Earth tried to kill us every day for millennia. Storms, predators, plagues, gravity that crushes bones, radiation, ice ages, supervolcanoes. We survived all of it. His eyes hardened. We learned to prepare. The projection zoomed in on a Dominion flagship. Human drones, sleek and almost delicate, clung to its hull like silver insects. Nanite infiltration, Ward explained, years in the making, planted during trade inspections, embedded in hull seams, in maintenance ports. Waiting. Threx's breathing grew ragged. You infiltrated sovereign warships? Ward tilted his head slightly. You fired on medical ships. The chamber buzzed with frantic cross-communication. You will reverse this, Threx demanded. Ward's gaze flicked to the Arbiter. Humanity has no desire for war. We have disabled, not destroyed. Your crews are alive. Your worlds are untouched. He stepped closer to Threx, close enough that the towering commander had to look down. But understand this, you struck a diplomat in the Conclave after months of aggression. His voice dropped. You have 5 seconds left. Threx hesitated. For the first time in his decorated military career, he hesitated. You cannot hold an entire fleet hostage, he said, but the certainty was gone. Ward's eyes were calm. Try me. The Arbiter intervened, light flaring bright white. Commander Threx, the Conclave demands immediate de-escalation. Threx's jaw tightened. Every Dominion ship, every strategic asset, gone dark. The balance of power had shifted in less than a breath. You planned this, Threx said slowly. Ward nodded once. We prepared for it. You expected violence. We expected you. Silence pressed down on the chamber. Finally, Threx straightened. You have made your point, he said, each word forced through pride. Ward studied him. Then, slowly, he tapped his wrist again. Across the galaxy, human drones disengaged. Dominion warships flickered back to life. Engines hummed, shields reformed, systems rebooted with no lasting damage. The projection vanished. The conclave chamber felt suddenly smaller. Ward stepped back into his original position. "The next time," he said evenly, "we won't stop at 5 seconds." He turned to the Arbiter. "Humanity formally requests an emergency session to address Dominion aggression and a censure for assaulting a diplomatic representative." The Arbiter's light swirled thoughtfully. "Request acknowledged." Threx stared at Ward, something like reluctant comprehension dawning behind his amber eyes. "You could have destroyed us," he said quietly. Ward met his gaze. "Yes." "Why didn't you?" The faintest hint of a smile touched the human's lips. "Because we're not the monsters you think we are." He paused. "But we are deathworlders." The conclave adjourned in stunned silence, and across the galaxy, a new understanding spread like wildfire. Humans did not roar, they did not posture, they did not need to. They counted to 5. The aftermath was worse than the incident. For the Dominion. Within hours, recordings of the slap and the 5-second blackout had propagated across every major data network. Analysts replayed the moment again and again. The strike, the calm warning, the synchronized shutdown. Military academies began running simulations. None were reassuring. Human infiltration techniques were dissected in frantic detail. Trade inspection protocols were re-examined. Every Dominion vessel was scanned for foreign nanotechnology. They found nothing, because the nanites were gone, self-terminating, evidence erased. The message, however, lingered. The Virillian Dominion had long relied on intimidation. Their fleets were vast, their soldiers formidable, their commanders feared. But fear only worked when the other side believed you held the biggest weapon. Now the galaxy knew something else. Humans had been inside Dominion hulls for years, waiting. 3 cycles later, Commander Threx stood alone on the observation deck of his flagship. He replayed the footage one more time. The slap. The stillness. "You have 5 seconds." He had expected rage, expected retaliation in the moment. Instead, he had been shown something colder. Patience, preparation, restraint. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. "Enter," he said. A junior officer stepped in. "Commander, the Conclave has finalized its ruling." Threx did not turn. "Speak." "The Dominion is censured for diplomatic assault. Reparations have been ordered for the attacked convoy. A neutral corridor will be established." "And humanity?" "No sanctions." "Of course not." The officer hesitated. "Commander, there are rumors." "Of what?" "That humanity has similar contingencies embedded elsewhere." Threx dismissed him. Alone again, he stared out at the stars. Deathworlders. He had thought the term meant savage, primitive, dangerous in a crude way. Now he understood. Deathworlders were not dangerous because they were violent. They were dangerous because they survived worlds that tried to kill them daily. They learned to anticipate disaster, to build redundancies, to assume betrayal, to prepare responses long before provocation. And they were very, very patient. Threx touched his own cheek where Ward's skin had reddened under his strike. 5 seconds. The shortest war in the Dominion history. He exhaled slowly. "Never again," he murmured. Across the galaxy, other commanders reached the same conclusion. If you insulted a human, you might get words. If you threatened a human, you might get warnings. But if you struck a human, you had 5 seconds, and the galaxy would see what happened next.